Coach, it seems like every player we're talking to, their goal is just to stay healthy this season.
Me too. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's been such a big thing hanging over our head when you've had key players for 2 years now with injuries and illnesses and everything else. It takes a toll both physically for your team and mentally on everybody else trying to show up every day and you look around and start counting heads. I mean, we literally got to the point last year was like, do we have 6 or do we have 7 today? Oh, we got 8. Okay. And that's just kind of where we were. It's we still have a lot to manage as we get into the season with those who have been hurt. But I think we have a good plan in place, and the main thing with that is to be at our best when we need to be at our best. So we're not going to have everybody 100% all the time, and we know that. We know that we're going to have to manage minutes in practices right now, and we're going to have to take our time. But we're not going to win or lose this season in the next couple weeks on that part. It may determine how our season goes and what we learn and what we accomplish as far as who we are and what we do on the court. But the rest of it is just going to have to be we're going to have to stay even keeled, and I think we're deeper right now than we were a year ago to maybe sustain some of that too and withstand any short-term things.
Elena mentioned that depth as well. You obviously are losing Tina Charles. Are you comfortable you have kind of a deep enough roster? You can obviously, it's hard to replace her, but kind of replace the production and piece together what she did.
Yeah, I don't think we have to. I mean, we didn't have Tina Charles when we won a championship. We have a little bit different team. Every team has a different personality, has a different kind of feel to it. You take away, one of the issues we had, and it was hard for Tina, is that she came here expecting to play with others and not take on that bigger role. And now we can spread the wealth a little bit. I mean, that's why, signing Maisha back and getting Elizabeth Williams and, drafting Shakira and bringing Tiana back was part of, the group plan more than anything else. And I think, we'll get back to kind of playing how we did offensively, stylistically, as we did a few years ago. With Tina last year, there was a lot thrown at her and on her shoulders, but we became a little bit one-dimensional at times too, through no fault of hers. But it's just one of those things now that we have post players that have different strengths right now on our team, and we can use each of them a little bit differently. I think that depth will really help us, and it was a big focus of what we did this offseason.
On paper, have you had a roster this just to be defensive minded in your time here?
Not to start a season. I think that we got better each season in some regards with that, but to have 4 players on your team who have been on the all defensive team, I mean that's a great starting point for anybody. And then to have your top draft pick have a defensive focus to her game. Only enhances that. And it's, Elena and I were talking about it, kind of puts the pressure on everybody else to kind of up their game too. You're looking around going, man, I gotta work a little harder on the defensive end just to keep up with these teammates that I have.
Coach, with that defensive depth, Natasha Cloud said that you have the ability possibly to switch 1 through 4 or even 1 through 5. What is that going to feel like for you in terms of the rotations that you can go to?
I don't know yet until we experiment it with a little bit, but I do know that it makes some of our schemes a little bit easier to envision. That we can say, we'll start out early in training camp. I'm not a big believer in being a constantly switching team. I want people to have some individual responsibility, and sometimes you don't want to take a particular defender off somebody else on the other team, and and do some switching that's unnecessary, but. It gives us an ability with the fact that Natasha and Ariel and Alicia are all about the same size. You can do some things that in the past we weren't able to do. But we're still going to have some smaller lineups out there. When Rui's on the court or somebody else is that we're going to have to play a little bit differently defensively. We had those same kind of rules a couple years ago. We didn't do the same things with Christy Tolliver on defense that we did with, maybe Ariel Powers and Tosh being together. So, we'll make those adjustments as we go.
And with the minutes restrictions you were kind of alluding to in practices, is that something that's etched in stone, or is that going to be a feel? Like, do you have minutes per player?
Well, the minutes in practices is like how much that we're going to allow contact, every day for the first couple weeks. An example today in our practice, I envision the way we have it mapped out that, Elena and Alicia will probably do somewhere between 60 and 70% of practice. There are parts that we're going to hold them out. It's not something they've been doing every day yet, and we'll work our way gradually into that. I don't envision either of them playing in our first exhibition game, and there's no reason to. But as we work through the rest of training camp, I think this will, like every 2 or 3 days, we'll regather our medical people and coaches and say, okay, where are we with each of them? And I can't give you an etched in stone one that what it looks like 2 weeks from now. I don't know. I just know that we have a plan for this first week, and we'll see how that goes.
Coach, you mentioned earlier that all teams are different, and I know it's very early on, but how would you describe the personality of this particular group?
Fun. It has a real air of like great professionalism right now. You can sense it in talking to our players. I don't know how they've been with you, but there's a kind of a quiet confidence about them that we've kind of recaptured some of that camaraderie that maybe goes away when you have all the injuries, and like even simple things like when you're on the road, your team can have great camaraderie. But last year, Elena and Alicia didn't travel with us. And so 2 strong personalities, good players, are not with you to kind of, when there's some rough spots, be a calming or soothing influence for maybe some of the younger players. And so I think there's just this feeling like we know we can be good. We know it's going to take some time. We know that there's a lot of work to be done to be that good. But there's enough confidence like, all right, if we get this right, we're really good. And that's a good way to start.
What is Shelly Patterson at?
Shelly Patterson adds a couple things. Number one, she's been in the league longer than any of us. And so she has a perspective. Yes, she's actually been in the league longer than me. And she has a perspective. She's been a part of 5 championships between Houston and Minnesota. And so she knows what a great team looks like. I think it's a good balance to our staff to have older and younger coaches on our staff to have a variety of ideas, to see how other people, she's worked, for some really good coaches, in this league. And so I think that sometimes you need that perspective to bounce ideas off of each other and say, hey, have you thought about trying it this way? Or here's how somebody else did something. Or even as simple as, hey, this is how we prepared for you guys, to tell us what people thought of us and how they, approach things. And so I think her knowledge of the league is just incredible. I mean, I think she knows almost every team inside and out. And so when you're doing scouting preparation and those things, I think that really helps. And I think she has a really good direct way with players. There's no nonsense. I mean, she can joke with them and everything else, but I think she can also sit a player down sometimes and say, here's reality. Let's do a little reality check. And so, having another older coach on the team that can give them that perspective, I think it's really helpful.
Elena alluded to having Alicia Clark around her, I guess, in rehab and all of that she didn't know how much she needed her. What have you seen with their chemistry? She called it peanut butter and jelly.
I think that's been a big part of our offseason. You have 2 players who are experiencing that feeling of, anxiety about getting back, frustration with days that, you don't feel your best, keeping each other's spirits up, that, there's a light at the end of the tunnel for them. They know that they're counted on for leadership. They're different personalities, but just the fact that they can bond and, several of them, Tiana was in the group, Ariel's been here a little bit, but that I know that that Elena and Alicia and Tiana would go have a workout on Saturday mornings and go have brunch and just talk, everything, basketball, life, general, and so when you can do that with each other in the off season, it's a great start to bonding as a group, because now they can lead the others, and they're great examples for the others for that kind of stuff.
Coach, how does it feel to have a day like today, a sense of normalcy going into the season? We haven't really had a media day like this in a couple of years. How does it feel going into the season to have this sense of normalcy? It
makes it real, in a sense. I mean, there's some normalcy to things that, we're back in this daily routine. It's funny, every offseason I just dread the first couple months of the offseason. When I was in the NBA, you knew kind of the routine. Season ended, you had about 3.5 months to get ready, and it went, this, and this, draft, summer league, time off, whatever. Ours is so long that back in November and December, I'm thinking it'll never get here. And then once we get to about February and right before college conference tournament starts, all of a sudden it starts to fly. And now, we've gone Final Four, draft, okay, you're starting. And, that's a good feeling, because you live in an anticipation world of your season, and this makes it real for us now that here we are, we're doing what we love, and everybody was joyful to see each other again, and several of them when we were in for pickup games last week, and it was just this kind of great atmosphere, like, oh, here we go.
Hey, Coach, question: what are some of your expectations you have for the season?
Compete for a championship. Are there more?
and Coach, with that, a lot of the players just said the defense. You constructed this roster. What visions did you have of just seeing it through?
I think my vision is to have a balanced offense and defense, and I think that we have that. There's some things we still need to sort out and figure out how certain players fit together. Some of them haven't played together. But defensively, we've learned over the last couple of years, we got spoiled. I mean, in 2019, we were one of the best offensive teams in the history of the WNBA. And that's hard to sustain. I think we can recapture some of that. But there are nights you're not going to have good shooting nights, or, you have somebody missing with an injury. And if you have something defensively you can hang your hat on every night, that can get you through some rough spots. I'd like to think we're going to shoot, 45, 50% every night, but reality says you're not. But if you can make other teams miserable every night and make that other coach more miserable than I am, then, you've done a job. And so that was part of, how we constructed what we did. It was part of getting Alicia a year ago, and we just didn't get to see it last year. Clearly, Elizabeth Williams fits in that picture, and now with Shakira as part of it, that's a strength that she brings to our team.
Coach, with it being
All right, well, transition.
There's another question back there.
Oh, sorry about that.
So early in the season, where do you think the team is getting that quiet confidence that you spoke of at this stage?
I think they know, first of all, each other's skill level. They know, what certain things people have done historically. I mean, every night what you're going to get from a healthy Elena or a healthy Alicia Clark or a healthy Natasha Cloud or a healthy Ariel Atkins. You know what that looks like. I think that, having a couple veterans like Tiana Shatori who have been through it with us, they know that when somebody's checking into the game that's got, a role that's defined, and they know what they are. Everybody knows what Elizabeth Williams is going to bring to our team. We knew when we signed Rui what that looked like, what it could do for our team. And so I think the confidence comes from trust in those skills, and I think the other part comes from a trust that knowing that their teammates are hard workers, that they're going to get a great effort every day. I don't know that every coach can say that, but I think the way that our league is right now, that's probably true of almost every team. I mean, the depth of our league and how good it is right now, I think that players need to know that they can rely on their teammates, and I think this group feels that way.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
No, you're not done.
Oh. I'm sorry.
We'll have a Zoom. Go ahead, Alexa.
Oh, there we go.
Hi, Mike. Good to see you. Elena was talking to us about how she's just learned more about her body, and she's learned how to move differently instead of relying too much on her back. She's using her base more, and she seemed to think that that's something that will translate to the court. And I'm just curious if that's something you've noticed, or you've even talked with her about more of, just how she's taking a different physical approach that's helped her in the offseason.
This has been in very big detail for over a year now. So the conversations are consistent, not just with her, but the medical people. Dr. Mike Davis, who's been working with her on a regular basis, who works with the Wizards, has had a very meticulous, particular plan for her on a daily basis. And what people haven't seen about Elena is that there are days last year and this winter where she's here, 6-7 hours doing different things to get her body right. And so, it's not just this, haphazard, hey, I feel better and I'm working on this. There's a specific plan every single day for her, and it's been a progressive buildup, from, going on the court, just learning to step a certain way or slide a certain way, turn a certain way, to land when she shoots, to progressing up to having somebody defend her doing it, to doing it with a couple people on the court. And so there's, that's the next step for her, and all of that will be that comfort level of doing all of that in a crowd of people around her. And we've been introducing that little by little as we've gone along. And so that'll be the focus over the next 3 weeks of integrating that into her routine.
Thank you.
Jen?
Hey, Coach. Just curious, with the players that aren't on protected contracts or are maybe looking at an end of the bench spot, what sorts of skills are you looking for at the end of the bench, and how can those kind of bubble players separate themselves in training camp?
I think there's a couple parts to it. Do you understand what we're about? What do you bring that's unique about you when you step on the court? Can we rely on you as a great defender? Are you a great rebounder? Are you a great three-point shooter? You need those kind of things. I think I have a pretty good feel for what each of those players does right now, and that's why they were invited to camp. It'll be a little bit who separates themselves. Some of our roster is pretty well set. I mean, we're going to have, we're 17 people on the total roster with people not here, but at this point, with 11 spots available, it's going to be very specific about what you can do to blend with your teammates. How do you fit that piece? I joked on draft night that one of the skills that Kristen and Shakira have to have is the ability to clap and cheer for their teammates. And it's part facetious and part of it's not. I mean, you have to have that ability to understand your role in the team, and yet at the same time be absolutely ready when your turn is called, because we may say in 2 weeks, we're going to sit Elena out a game because we got 3 games in 5 days. And so, Shakira or whoever, are you ready to play significantly more minutes? You better have done the work to be prepared for that. So I'm looking for that as we go through camp.